Good morning, my creative friends. Today I'm going to show you how to create a sky overlay and get rid of an unwanted background. So this is one of my senior sessions. These were best friends, I believe, from when they were really little. So I'm going to do I guess it is kind of a typical senior shot. Walking away or walking into the distance, and I'm going to put in a new kind of dreamy sky and also get rid of my car. So this is the original image. I'm going to reset it just so you see it. I shoot in Kelvin, so that dictates how warm it is. I was at ISO 250 at 3200th of a second at wide open with my Sigma Art. Sigma Art series is just so excellent. In case you guys are interested in lenses, they're amazing. So I'm going to take my little spot remover tool. I'm going to clone out my car. Be aware of your feather ratio. This will create a hard circle. This kind of blends it in, so I kind of like to keep it a little bit in the middle. Since this is from a distance, I might not need too much of a feather, but in some areas I definitely will. So as you can see, here's a non-feathered look versus a very feathered look. I'm going to keep it somewhere in between. And I'm just taking the surrounding areas to kind of keep it cohesive and look like I didn't just erase a car. So here are my clone marks. You can kind of see zoomed in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to realign everything and make sure certain things match up. It looks believable. Again, whenever you are taking things out or adding them in, it's nice to make it look as believable as possible. So I'm going to do another little one here. I'm going to defeather that just a little bit. And then I'm going to take a little side piece to kind of camouflage that right over there. So you can see this is a little too hard. I'm going to go back and select that specific one, and it will always highlight where your clone circle is. So here's my original circle, and then here's the part that it's taking to clone. See, if you move it around, it'll select different spots. So I'm going to stick it kind of where I had it. And then I'm going to feather it a little bit more so it blends evenly. That's a little bit better, so you can see before, after. You can't really tell. Alright, I'm going to show you some detail work on that in Photoshop. But I'm going to start with my Wolfpack preset. I'm going to darken it just a hair. I'm also going to remove the grain. Make sure everything I want in focus is in focus. Looks good. So I'm going to take it into Photoshop and show you how to overlay a sky background. Alright. Still looks pretty groovy. Okay, I'm going to show you some of my favorite sky overlays. And then these are from, I believe, Jackie Jean. and she has excellent sky overlays. You can see some of the ones that she frequents in her work. I've seen this one. It's just beautiful, beautiful work. Anyway, she gives you, I can't remember how much this package was, but it was, I think it was a beautiful skies overlay. So you get beautiful skies dreamy collection as well. So these are a little different than those. You can also create overlays, sky overlays yourself. These were just handy to have, and everybody has a different point of view and aesthetic. And she actually might have some trial overlays. I think I downloaded these first to see if I could use them effectively in my workflow, and I was kind of hooked. So I think I got 1, 2, 3 different ones. And for this senior, I'm going to select more of a warm, not too crazy kind of sky. I always go with, you have to kind of pay attention to how you shot, what time of day it is. For example, my clients are too shaded for a bright blue sky, and they are too bright for a super sunset. So I'm going to kind of pick a middle ground. Like this might work at a low opacity, but I think I saw one in this. I think I'm going to stick with this one. Maybe even this one might be cool. Also, be aware of your light source. The more that you match up in your image what your light source is in real life versus what you're creating will kind of make the shadows more believable and look very cohesive. I think I might stick with this one. So, and I will show you kind of how to blend it. So I'm going to take my overlay, and you can morph these to however you want. I'm going to stretch it across here and then kind of place it right there. Ta-da! There you go. Just kidding. I'm going to drop down the opacity so you can kind of see in between. So I'm still on my overlay layer. I'm going to select create a mask. Add layer mask directly to that so you can erase off. Again, if you erase off the overlay, you can't get it back, so create a mask. And then I'm going to take my quick selection tool. A lasso tool works for this. I just prefer the quick selection tool. It's what I'm used to. Also, there are multiple ways to put in a sky overlay. This is just my method. I know a lot of photographers do it a different way, but this is just the way that kind of works for me the best. I'm going to select over the bulk of what I want to erase. I'm going to pay attention to how close I get to my subjects, especially their heads, because you want it to look believable. And then I'm going to erase out and kind of blend in the areas that don't look as believable. Also, I'm not going to worry about this sparsely leaf tree here. I'm just going to go over the bulk of it just so I have most of it selected, and I'm going to kind of blend this. So here's my quick selection. You can see everything that I've selected. So this will be the area I can erase out of. Say you wanted to erase elsewhere. All you have to do is select inverse. and then it will allow you to erase out here where the sky actually is, or if you had something down here, it will no longer erase off your initially selected area. So I do not want to do that, but that is a tip and trick. So one thing you can also do, you can take your handy eraser with your selected area highlighted by the select tool. You can erase out, or you can take your move tool, sorry. Take your move tool, grab your selected layer, and erase out that way. So that's actually what I'm going to do instead of sitting here and erasing it all. I'm going to drag it down and kind of see everything that I've selected and how it removed it. And I'm kind of okay with that right now. So I'm going to select it, drag it down just a little bit, and I'm just going to hit my delete button and get rid of it. So far. So I've dropped down the opacity to 47%. I'm going to play with it to see how intense I want it, and also how it affects my clients in the believable realm of photography. So, and I like it around here-ish. That's about 80-ish percent, and I might change my mind after I blend out. So I'm going to take my mask and I'm going to erase out these hard lines, just because the sky doesn't do that. So anyways, it also gets it off some of the trees. So now you're probably wondering, like, now you have a weird blue sky next to a sunset sky, and I'll show you how to fix that too. So this may take a minute. This is a little tedious, I guess. Depends on how patient you are. So here's what I've got so far with my overlay. I kind of erased most of the hard edges. There's also different ways to do this. This is just my preferred method. So there's without, here's with, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and this will be kind of like a fill layer, and just say selectively filled layer. I've shown this technique a few times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy eyedropper tool and kind of pick a color that is similar to where it's located at on my image. I always take a pretty big fluffy brush and a lower opacity, because if not, it'll just like you block painted everything. And I'm just going to kind of paint in a little bit of the areas that need a little color. And you can be as meticulous with this as you want. I want it to blend. Other people, I don't know, do different things, I guess. So I'm going to do this pretty much over the line that I got rid of. And also, I'm a process-oriented type artist. I like the process of creating something that takes more than a 1-2 click, not just a preset in Lightroom. It's not just drag and drop, edit. I don't really prefer that. That's not my style. Here I'm going to take a little bit of a lighter color. And this is a bit to my advantage because it is fall. So these yellow, reds, and kind of pinky colors are a-okay with me in the tree line. I'm also going to manipulate that a little bit later after I get the sky kind of where I want it. But the process of creating something beautiful, I think, is the best part of my workflow. So, and in this sparsely leaved tree, that's not even a correct sentence, I'm going to not be too particular. Just going to take a lighter color kind of where it's lighter and kind of fade this just a little bit. And then I'll probably take this little yellow color into where the sky is a little bit brighter than it looks like it needs to be. So, alright. Looks a little bit better. Alright. So I'm going to take my erase brush. I'm going to turn up my flow a little bit. I'm going to leave it all the way soft to kind of take off this extra painted look that I've put on the trees. Just, selectively. So you don't want it to look like you just painted trees, but you see what I mean. Anywho. Alright, that's looking a little bit more believable to me. I'm going to do one more tiny little area that seems to give trouble is around your subject or around heads, arms, things like that. If you erase out too much, it looks like you erased a fake sky overlay around your client's head. So I'm going to drop it down a little bit more so I can get a little bit closer. And then I'm going to erase off her hair. And I might turn the hardness up a little bit just so it gives me a better line. And her hair doesn't look airbrushed. Alright. I'm going to undo that last brush stroke. Alright. So here's this so far. It looks kind of muddledy around here, but I'm going to show you how to fix that. So I'm actually going to put in another layer, and I'm going to embed a lightscaping overlay. Oh, wrong file folder. And I'm going to use one of these might work. Let me try this one. I think I'm off my image a little bit, but that is okay. So I'm going to create another layer mask, and I'm going to flip this down to overlay to kind of see how it looks. It looks a little too intense on the sky overlay, so I might drop it down. Yeah, right about there. So here's my sky overlay. Here's my lightscape. What I'm going to do is probably get rid of this harsh kind of sun flare. I usually like a good backlit sun flare, but not in this image. I want it to be a little bit softer rather than super bright with a light source over here on the right hand side. So I'm just going to drop it down a little bit. I'm also going to take out the prism effect they kind of put down here and take it a little bit off the road because I really want it to focus on more of the trees and then the background. So I'm going to take it off over here. and I'm probably going to take it off the sky just a little bit, because you've made a layer mask. You can always put this back in. So I feel like I took it off a little bit too much over here, so I'm going to put it back a little bit just at a lower opacity. So it's kind of all about blending, at least with me. There's without, there's with. I'm going to soften, hold on, there we go. I'm going to soften this layer, which is my painted layer, just a little bit off the trees, and kind of make it hopefully flow a little bit better. Alright, so it's looking pretty good. I'm just adding in a little bit as I see it. And again, this is my method. Doesn't have to be yours. Some people would rather drag drop and just have it in there perfectly, but I really enjoy kind of blending it into the background and creating believable things. So I'm just going in and selectively kind of putting it near the trees. There's that. Kind of like it. I'm gonna play with the opacity in my painted layer, see if I can fade it just a little bit. And I can. So I kind of like it right about there. So here is before, and then here is after a lightscape, as well as overlay background. So I will probably do a little tweaks to this, rotate them just a hair, make sure it feels cohesive. I might center them a little bit. Yeah. I almost never crop. I do tend to rotate. I guess that's considered a crop too, but and there you go. I don't think I would do anything else to this image. If you wanted to tighten up these little areas, you could, I guess. I think that looks pretty believable to me. Everybody has their own opinion though. Another thing I might do is take in my Innocence workflow, maybe it's Innocence 2. This is from the Greater Than Gatsby collection. I'm going to paint on some golden leaves, which is just a handy little tool. You can kind of see everything that they do. They do a vibrance boost, a color boost, and then here, well, I'll just show you. So I'm going to make sure it's pretty low. I'm only at about 30% opacity. Make sure it's on your paintbrush. And it kind of just livens up these little trees back here. This will also help make your background a little more believable. If you have a greater light source, enhance some color in the trees, or whatever your background may be. You can see without, with, this kind of gives it a vibrance boost. So I'm going to do that. Make sure everything looks good. I can kind of see the line where my overlay is, so I'm going to get rid of that. And it's a good idea to go back through and look at your layers to make sure everything's blended evenly from afar as well as kind of close up. So you will have good printed images as well as good digital visual images. Another tip you could do is do a selective blur on places that you are more concerned about looking less realistic, like in the background, for example, or softening some of these already super soft clouds. Would be a good idea. So it's taken, I don't even know, quite a bit of time, but I've only used probably 1, 2, 3 layers plus a tweaked preset. So not too many layers of things. So I'm going to take my blur the background a lot from, I think, Kelsey Freeman Actions. I'm just going to soften some things up a little bit. Also with layers, you have to pay attention to where your blurred background is. So since I've already started, actually I'm going to erase that real quick. If you move layers around, it'll obviously deduct and put in based off of which layer you're telling it to put it on. So since it was on the bottom, it's telling me to, or I'm telling it to blur on the bottommost layer, and that is not where my sky overlay is, as well as my lightscaping, so it's going to look a little bit muddled. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten this image before I do anything else. If you are unsure if you are done with it, I suggest make a snapshot or a duplicate. Keep it open in your browser tab so you can, or in your Facebook, I need a nap, in your Photoshop tabs, just so you can go back and play around with your original concept or creation, whatever it may be. So I'm just going to soften these clouds a little bit, kind of where the overlay meets the trees. If these are specifically in focus, I probably wouldn't do that. It's going to look a little weird. But because I was wide open, with a shallower depth of field, I feel like it's okay. So there's just a tiny bit of blur. Here's without. Here's with. I might take it off right here closer to my clients. So there you go. That's how you blend a background. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you need me, find me at Lennox&Jude.com. Facebook at Lennox&Jude on Instagram as well. Or Lennox&Jude on Instagram. Yeah, thanks. Bye.